What's going on, Alabama fans? It is finally game day, Alabama versus Georgia. We're going to do our official preview of this game, so do not miss out. Make sure you guys hit that sub button right now for me. We will be live tonight for this Alabama versus Georgia game. We're going to be raffling off a Jalen Milroe jersey. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, so make sure you guys do not miss out. We're also trying to hit 1,000 subscribers in the month of September. We're a couple of hundred away, so do me a favor. Make sure you guys hit that sub button for me right now. Like I said, guys, we're going to be breaking down this Alabama versus Georgia Week 5 matchup. And, man, this is the biggest game of the season for Alabama. And I just cannot wait for this game to, really start getting going. Georgia, a 2-point favorite in this game. Over under set at 48.5 right now. So if you are betting on this game, it's going to be a really close one, possibly even a low-scoring one if you're looking at those Vegas odds. Georgia so far this season has not had really the best season so far, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense is still rock solid, but that game against Clemson was not as far apart as really the score suggests there. I think it was like 6-3 at halftime, and Clemson's defense is still pretty good, but man, when they're just out there on the field constantly in that second half, they ended up wearing down at the end of the day. So Alabama going to have to be able to get off the field, and Alabama's offense definitely going to have to be able to score to, keep up with the defensive side of the ball. That Kentucky game, though, for Georgia was absolutely abysmal. They were just getting bullied up front by Kentucky, and it was honestly, kind of lucky that they got out of there with a win at the end of the day. But look, Alabama's got better talent up front than Kentucky does, but Georgia also, we'll talk about these injury reports here in just a second. They're getting some guys probably back on the defensive side of the ball. Alabama's first 3 games, their defense has played solid so far, I think. Got the blowout against Western Kentucky. Defense really was who kept them in it at the end of the day with that South Florida game. And then when you go to the Wisconsin game, also, the defense was able to, force some turnovers in that game. And, they were very intentional about forcing turnovers. You look at the, fumble that Quandarius Robinson was able to force. He was tackling the guy and then decides, hey, I'm going to rip at the ball too. And that's one of those things that Kane Wommack has really talked about, is being intentional when it comes to forcing those turnovers and also turning those turnovers into touchdowns. So Alabama's defense is definitely going to have to do that if they want to win this game against the Bulldogs. Going into these player availabilities. Now, granted, I did film this video on Thursday a little bit earlier in the week, so they could be a little bit different, but these are, they're staying steady. These guys are going to be out for Georgia, which, means Etienne is going to have to be the guy really carrying the load at running back for Georgia. Landon Humphreys, he's going to be out with mono, but I think Georgia's, that he's not really, their leading receiver in any kind of way. Tate Ratledge, I think, could be a very big loss for Georgia in this game, their offensive guard. I also do think Micah Morris has played pretty well in the time that he has been able to play. So he's going to be replacing Tate Ratledge at that guard position. And honestly, I think if Alabama's going to have to take advantage of their offensive line, it's going to be at those tackle positions for Georgia. This was the Wednesday availability report for Georgia. Mykel Williams listed as questionable. Sokovie White listed as questionable at that wide receiver spot. Jordan Hall as questionable. They're going to have to get these guys back in the lineup if they really want a chance at being able to stop Alabama being able to run the ball in this game, because we'll talk about here in a second, some things that I think Alabama's going to have to do in order to win this ball game. But Warren Brinson listed as probable on Wednesday. So I think Georgia's going to, have some of those guys back on the defensive line for them. And honestly, I think that, it's going to look like a whole lot different Georgia team than we have seen so far this season. I want to hear from you guys one more time in the comments section, though. Who do you guys got? Alabama type A. If it's Georgia, you type G in the comments. But I will say, if you're watching this video, that means you're probably an Alabama fan. It means we should probably have about 1,000 A's in the chat at least. So get down there in the comments section and let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. One of the biggest things I think Alabama needs to do on defense to be able to stop Georgia's offense, they got to be able to stop the run in this game. You got Trevor Etienne is really their lead back. I think that's going to be the guy that you see mostly for Georgia coming out of the backfield. And he has not started off, the best this season. But, he had that first game where he was suspended and just really has not been able to get it going. And I think that's really credit to the offensive line not playing so well. But when you look back at his time at Florida, man, he was a dog. He was a dog in both the run game and the pass game. That's freshman and sophomore years, too. So, I mean, when you have an extra year of, just being able to progress, being able to get better, look, it's only a matter of time before Trevor Etienne really breaks out for Georgia. And I just really hope it's not going to be today against Alabama. But like I told you guys, Tate Ratledge is going to be out. Micah Morris is going to be in there at right guard for him. Most likely, I think that's going to how it shakes out. But the interior of this Georgia offensive line is pretty solid. I think Alabama's really going to have to take advantage of those tackles. You got Ernest Green and Xavier Truss. Both of those guys have kind of struggled this year. So I think, Alabama's really going to have to take advantage of those matchups, especially guys like LT Overton or Quay Russaw probably going to be playing in this game. They're really going to have to take advantage of those guys. And when you talk about the defensive tackles up front for Alabama, Tim Keene and Tim Smith, both of these guys have, I had a pretty good amount of confidence in what Tim Keenan was going to be able to bring to the table for you. Wasn't sure about Tim Smith, if I'm being honest, coming into the season. But I think he has played a whole lot better than anything that I expected for him this season. And when you look at the AVDT right there, that's average depth of tackle. When opposing teams are running up the middle, they are not getting very far before these guys are getting to them. So, like I said, Alabama needs to stop the run. It also comes to guys like Jamarian Latham, LT Overton. LT Overton has been absolutely, unstoppable for Alabama, going up against those opposing offensive lines. He's just been really wreaking havoc. 13 pressures for him this season. And I think that's, one of the things I've talked about all for the past 2 weeks that Alabama's going to have to do. They're going to have to pressure Carson Beck in this game because Carson Beck, notably, does not turn the ball over. Hadn't turned the ball over at all this year. Hasn't thrown a pick. Nobody's fumbled the ball for Georgia. So, Alabama's going to really have to be able to get after him. And when you talk about Carson Beck, when he is pressured, he is not as good. He's, not when blitzed anyways. He's got like 36% completion percentage when teams are getting to him just with 4 rushers. So Alabama is going to have to make Carson Beck make some bad decisions in this game. And I think Alabama has those guys up front that can, potentially do it. So let me know in the comments section, guys, do you think Alabama will win the turnover battle in this ball game? Type Y if you think it's yes, or type N if you think it's a no. Guys, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today, and that is LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Look, before I got my job here at Chat Sports, I just updated my resume. I put it on my LinkedIn, updated that, and Chat Sports reached out to me just a couple of days later. It was super easy for me, and it was super easy for the boss's side of hiring as well. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire the right professionals that you cannot find anywhere else, even those who are not actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, what are you guys doing? You are looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like professionals on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses, they're wearing so many hats, and you might not have time to really, research and find the right people to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier, and they even just launched a new feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses are on LinkedIn right now and using that for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/CFchat. That's linkedin.com/CFchat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's video. All right, now flipping to the offensive side of the ball for Alabama, I want to talk about 4 critical players or positions, honestly, because I cheated a couple of times here, for Alabama's offense. And I think it really is going to start with Alabama's offensive tackles. I think we all have, a solid amount of confidence in that interior offensive line, Jaden Roberts, Parker Brailsford, and Tyler Booker. But I still think a lot of question marks are at those tackle positions. Caden Proctor, Elijah Pritchett, both played really, really well against Wisconsin. And honestly, you couldn't really ask for much more out of those guys. So I'm really going to need to see them. I've given a lot of crap to Elijah Pritchett, over the past, honestly, couple of years, especially last year, wasn't able to earn that job from Caden Proctor. But, I think Caden Proctor, too, has improved. He's not really getting out over the balls of his feet and getting unbalanced. That's where he was getting kind of beat, in pass protection last year a lot. And Elijah Pritchett, he looked very good in pass protection too against Wisconsin. So, if these guys are going to have to perform well, especially if there's a guy like Mykel Williams for Georgia that's able to play in this game, Georgia plays him at different, spots on the field. They play him on the left side, they play him on the right side. So, these guys are gonna have to be able to contain him and give Jalen Milroe time in the pocket at the end of the day. Next player I want to talk about is Justice Haynes for this game. Look, Justice Haynes has been, pretty solid for you so far. He's got like 8.7 yards per carry so far this season, but the consistency has kind of been up and down. We saw him go crazy in that first game of the season, but, since then, he's kind of, hit a little bit of a rough patch at times, and what's interesting about Justice Haynes, too, is he's actually on the field more times than Jam Miller, but he's not necessarily getting the ball more than Jam Miller. And, that's fine because Alabama has multiple guys that can, influence the run game. Jalen Milroe has been incredible in the run game, and I love the fact that Nick Sheridan has been able to get him involved in the run game. Jam Miller has been insane for you in the run game too. So, Alabama is going to go with a hot hand at the end of the day, but I would really like to see Justice Haynes get involved in the run game today. So let me know, guys, who do you think will lead Alabama in rushing yards in this game against Georgia? If you think it's Jalen Milroe type 4, if you think it's going to be Justice Haynes type 22, or if you think it's going to be Jam Miller, go ahead and type 26 in the comment section for me right now. Number 2, critical players to watch. It's going to be this entire wide receiver core, honestly. We've talked about this a little bit, leading up into this week, but Alabama's wide receivers at times, not all the time, has struggled a little bit in creating separation from those defensive players. And, we've seen flashes from guys like Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, even seen some flashes from Kobe Prentice too. But, I would love to see a guy like Kendrick Law really be utilized in this game. Because, in his career, we haven't seen him utilized, I think, as much as he probably should be utilized. You can line him up in a variety of different ways, and he is, just super electric when the ball is in his hands. But what's so great about this wide receiver core for Alabama is they're like 5-6 deep. You could go to any guy, and they could be your number one. A lot of people are going to be saying Ryan Williams, he is the number one wide receiver on this team. But when you look at the actual reads, he's really like wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. He's just been able to make those explosive plays for Alabama. So they're going to have to be able to create some separation from those Georgia defensive backs because they are loaded, back there for Georgia in the defensive backfield. So these guys are going to have to be able to get open quickly for Jalen Milroe. It's also going to help the offensive line not have to block as much or as long, too. The number one critical player to watch, I think you guys knew this one was probably going to be coming. It is Jalen Milroe. I think my biggest thing with Jalen Milroe so far this year is he's not forcing anything. And I think that was something that last year, they were trying to get him to, really improve in that intermediate passing game. And that just at the end of the day might not be Jalen's strong suit. He runs the ball, he throws the deep ball, and he's use him in the read option game. So, I mean, Jalen Milroe so far this year, I think he's been okay. He hasn't been phenomenal. He's made those, 2 fumble mistakes, and he's missed some passes on third down. That's fine, but you're going to have to be able to control that, and you're going to have to, be able to do a better job. They need to be able to extend plays or extend drives on third down, be able to convert on those 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s. I want to see Jalen Milroe in the run game there. There's no reason Alabama shouldn't be able to convert 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. I think they've done a decent job this year, but I think, those are going to be really, really big plays against this Georgia Bulldogs team.